Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast Lehr. Yes, sorry for the slight delay there in sort of videos. All of a sudden, I was like, well, I wasn't entirely sure what to cover since there was the option, and then I sort of realised, oh, crud, I've actually not dealt with the heavy tanks at all. Tiger nor IS-2, so I think, I'd probably, benefit from rectifying that. I mean, we've had the Tiger race, we've had a lot of other fun stuff, but for some reason, the otherwise iconic Tiger has actually been a bit overlooked. And it's certainly right now, of course, it's a great time to actually have a look at the Tiger, because the Tiger is probably in the best form it's ever been after the latest series of patches. I mean, that's one thing that definitely handles all right. So what about the Tiger? It's a 640 man-pound, 230 fuel tank, meaning, well, reasonably priced there. Well, baseline standard price, I think, for most heavy armour. And what do you get for it? Well, you pretty much, in terms of health, get the most durable heavy tank. Not tank destroyer, though, but tank in the game. It's got a bit more armor than the Panther, though not a veteran Panther, and it's only not got more armor than the IS-2. The IS-2 definitely leads the way there. You get something that can basically, in most cases, handle most medium armor in a 1 versus 1 scenario. In fact, it can handle all medium armor, simply due to the thickness of armor, the sheer sturdity of German engineering in this case, and the Tiger tank was reasonably reliable as long as properly maintained, but also one of the more powerful guns in the game. It's not as powerful as the Panther in terms of penetration, but it will generally do well against most medium armor. Versus heavy armor, of course, there'll be a slight struggle as it fights against the opponent. Of course, the Tiger tank is also rather solid versus infantry, capable of striking down like a wrathful god forged from Krupp steel, striking terror into the hearts of anything that might oppose you or even look at you in a remotely funny way. It also has access to reasonably useful MG for 50 munitions. You can sort of further add to the infantry firepower. It's also a tank that in essence can essentially take on a field gun head on and clear it out. Most, in fact, 1 versus 1 situations, the Tiger can generally win. That is the strength of the Tiger. It's a heavy tank. It's to a certain extent also a spearhead tank, though mind you, when you do have a spearhead, you also generally have something else to support it. Otherwise, just like a spear, you can just cut off the shaft and then the spearhead falls to the ground. And of course, in that department, the weakness of the Tiger is it's a lot of resources expended into one unit. Its rear armor is reasonably weak. It's slow, which also means if caught in the wrong situation, it can't really do much. But there we go, already one hit. The consequence for it is already not feeling too well. Heavy wounds, heavy casualties. The Tiger overall proving to be quite devastating versus infantry, and definitely as the Germans is one of your best anti-infantry assets in the game. Plus, of course, also reasonably well against armor. In terms of abilities, as the veterans up, you get the Blitzkrieg. Although currently with this patch, again, Blitzkrieg really isn't worth. I mean, I suppose you get a bit the bonus where it's harder to hit, but overall the speed bonus is non-existent. Veteran 2, though, is really where it's at, as it gets further accurate, but also it has a higher range, though note here, of course, don't expose the rear armor. We're not dealing with the most experienced player here, by the way. But generally, don't expose the rear armor again with the Tiger. Keep the rear armor safe. And of course, also in short, you be careful around opponent's armor, because if the Tiger gets swarmed and they get behind it, it can very quickly go down. I mean, it won't go down quickly as some units, again, that's where the health plays into it, but be careful, in particular also then if you suffer engine damage, in which case the Tiger is in a lot of trouble. And of course, generally, swarms of anything hitting the Tiger is really one of your main dangers. Again, it's a very expensive unit, so in that regard your opponent can usually prop up a lot more units versus several field guns, for example, in particular if they hit veterans who flee, can tear through the armor and do a lot of damage, ensuring your Tiger won't necessarily have a chance of getting out of there. Seeing the tanks, if they swarm and get behind him to begin shooting into the rear armor, your Tiger will have suddenly a lot shorter living time. Of course, the turret is not so swiftly rotating, so that's also a bit of a weakness there for the Tiger. And of course, you have veteran 3 with basically ensures it fires even faster, even more often, and of course navigates the battlefield even more handily, which of course makes it a much more nimble tank. Essentially, at veteran 3, it's close to a Tiger Ace with some slight differences in terms of, I think, machine guns maybe, and some lack of abilities. But overall, again, a veteran 3 Tiger is something to be feared, though it does take a lot of resources and a lot of experience and so on to get to that stage. But still, valuable if you can get a veteran 2. Even at Veteran 2, it becomes a much more formidable foe. And of course, at Veteran 3, it's really something to be feared. But again, generally, you don't want to rush it in ahead on its own. That is really one of the biggest mistakes you can make with a Tiger. Sending it in on its own with no support or with no reconnaissance. I mean, if that thing gets with a damage engine or anything and gets caught then in some heavy anti-tank defenses, it will go down very quickly. It's not the most fastest vehicle. It's reasonably maneuverable, not the fastest. And again, you have to sort of use the sort of more dense armor and the main gun to sort of punch through a hole. And generally in those engagements, for example, you want to maybe focus down the field guns quickly. Yes, it can generally deal with the crews fast. It's the sort of thing, of course, in the terms of a defense, I mean, you usually want it to be your centerpiece, holding up things there, blowing apart infantry and armor. Of course, right here, having it at the very edge of your territory is generally not a good idea. I mean, you want it to be the sort of the centerpiece. It's the spearhead, it's the center of your formation. It should never sort of be on its own too much. Also, generally, small suggestion there, when you get a Tiger, you usually want more than one Pioneer squad. 2 to 3 are good, because again, the Tiger has a lot of health. It's going to take a long time to repair, and the faster you can get that Tiger back in the field, the better. So generally, when you get a Tiger, have 2 to 3 Pioneer squads standing by already there to repair it. It'll generally help you get more out of your Tiger. So that's a small little thing there as well. Of course, our friend here is much too passive with the Tiger rolls. Again, you shouldn't be reckless, but still, generally it doesn't hurt to be a bit aggressive with it, trying to punish your opponent, again, the infantry in particular. And generally when you sort of face the opponent, sort of focusing down the infantry first is a good idea. Field guns also, armor as well. Be careful about attacking certain units head on. If possible, HV5, for example, are a big no-no. But otherwise, try to keep the rear clear. Keep it covered with packs of grenadiers in case something tries to flank it, so have a chance of getting away. Also be careful about getting too close to infantry and get, for example, hit with an anti-tank, because this could result in catastrophic engine damage, which again is something you want to avoid. I mean, it's not going to happen all the time, but again, if it happens, you're generally going to find yourself in a very sad state. But again, front towards the enemy. I mean, it does have reasonably thick rear armor, but, you know, it's not that thick either. So that is also something to be very mindful of when utilizing the Tiger on the battlefield. But again, you know, well positioned, it can punish your opponent, it can hurt its infantry, it can make your opponent cry. But again, generally you benefit if you have something to properly support it. Other tanks, for example, are good idea. For example, Stoogs or the Panzer IV works well with it. Those Stoogs, of course, then sort of provide more ranged fire, covering the Tiger's advances. For example, if you do, for example, a system pushing assault and then a smoke barrage, for example, to then obscure some things, allowing your Tiger to close in, perhaps even unnoticed, it's not a bad idea either. For example, you have to take on some field guns, pop some smoke on them, drive past them, knock them out that way, exposing it to less fire. And of course, with some commanders, you do get access, for example, to smoke on it. And of course, that's also a great thing to sort of help keep it alive. In particular, if sort of things get hairy, pop panzer tissue, get out of there, for example. So that, of course, is a small additional suggestion in terms of the Tiger, for those that sort of want to consider it on the field of battle. And of course, getting several Tigers can be a very powerful strategy. And of course, going straight for your opponent, though usually if you get more than one Tiger, it can usually be an idea not sort of to drive down the same road, but sort of try to attack your opponent from different angles, catching them between several Tigers, then getting some caught in a crossfire, taking out several units that way. For example, you can't act your field gun, shoot it out from several sides, quickly knocking it out, or for example, a tank as well. So that is something to keep in mind as well, and certainly will do a lot for you. Of course, one little thing that certainly has helped with some of the later patches in, for example, now it doesn't have to fear T-34s as much, but definitely also helps the Tiger tank very much. Again here, you know, focus down the Pack 40 first, or whatever anti-tank reports back. You have to be extremely careful about dealing with the Pack 40s, because if they get Veterans 1, that means target weak point, and that's generally something you always want to fear as your Tiger, because again, that means you can very quickly risk getting knocked out. But again, note here, despite several hits, it's sort of reasonably still got a lot of health. Though, I have to say the way he's sort of handling it currently is not very good. But again, now we do see the mistake he's making. He's pushing it ahead, and again, what's happening? Re-exposed, taking a lot of damage. He should be pulling it back for repairs, but again, with the rear armor exposed, it becomes a lot easier to target, particularly the T-34s. In this case, it ends up in the Tiger tank being, of course, abandoned. A tragic loss and something you always want to avoid. But in general, that sort of covers. I mean, here we've got a nice example of what not to do with your Tiger tank. I mean, don't rush it in blindly. You want to keep it support. Again, it's the spearhead of your formation. Again, a spearhead needs something else to sort of properly work. If you don't have it, it just falls down and, well, it's pretty much useless on the ground. Same with the tiger. It's a powerful thing, but again, if you just rush it in, your opponent will target it down, and he will punish it. And again, depending on what sort you're using, again, for the Soviets, T-34 should try to get behind the tiger. They have the speed for it. Field gun, of course, could also benefit from getting behind, otherwise just fire away. If you have any stolen packs, target weak point is your greatest ally, because if you need to get that thing stopped for even a few seconds, you'll definitely have a much greater advantage. S-35s are a natural predator and foe of the Tiger tank as well. Infantry should be very wary, and of course engaging with medium armor head on to the Tiger is something that should be considered a very, very, very bad idea. But generally support your Tiger, keep the rear guarded, and of course avoid trying to sort of charge into too heavily guarded formation with too many anti-tank guns, then try to flank or use smoke to somehow turn the battlefield into your favor. If you can do that, you'll generally find yourself either, as the Germans, getting a lot more out of your time, because again, you can keep these basic rules in mind, you will really get a lot more out of it. Against the Soviets, try to keep those rules in mind as well, to sort of isolate the Tiger, clear it out as quickly as possible, because again, isolating the Tiger is really going to be one of those things you really want to do, because again, on its own, against large hordes, it's not going to do much. The Tiger generally either benefits greatly versus large numbers with other numbers behind it, or in a 1 versus 1 situation, which also means it's great, for example, for quickly punishing someone, doing a bit of harassment, or getting a bit too far ahead of themselves. Of course, also one thing to remember, if it fails to penetrate your opponent's tank's armor, it actually has a small chance of stunning them, so that's also a little thing there to keep in mind. And of course, trying to sort of prioritize targets, that way focusing down to sort of get a bit more of it is also a good idea. So hopefully with that in mind, you will have a great understanding of the mighty Tiger tank, how not to use them, courtesy of Doing R. And of course, if you did, feel free to subscribe, tell your friends, share with everyone, let everyone know the might of the Propagandacast Lehr and the Imperial Dane. If not, send in a replay or provide some, comments on what would you like to see. I'll probably keep forgetting them some occasionally, but of course I'll try to sort of get them out, different topics, units, whatever. I'll try, I can't guarantee anything, but of course I'll try for my very handsome and intelligent and charming viewers to sort of get something out they can enjoy and help improve their game with. So, this is Imperial Dane saying cheers and see you another day.